Well, there are YouTube videos. Maybe this link you can follow and check in the YouTube and see for yourself. So let me give you some stats. Change in reading proficiency for grades 1 to 8 from 19 to 20, year 2020. Percentage and millions of children. So you can see reading proficiency, but just we are talking about from grades 1 to 8, class 1 to 8. What is that reading proficiency? Let's see. Sub-Saharan Africa, very low. Okay, this dark red is the latest one, 2020, and prior to COVID-19 is this pink, like this one, right? So if you see that reading proficiency has come down everywhere. It's very okay, yeah. So 14.8 here. Earlier it used to be 17.5. So yeah, this much of progress, right? Reading proficiency. And then Central and Southern Asia 36 from 47.8. So now there are less number of kids from this class, this range of class, who have this reading proficiency. So that's the number. I see Latin America here. So the lowest one I see in this place, Sub-Saharan Africa, and then the highest I see here, Europe and Northern America. Okay, even before COVID-19, the world was not on track to meet reading and mathematics targets. In 2019, only 59% of children in grade 3 were proficient in reading. The pandemic is projected to cause an additional 101 million children, roughly 9% of those in primary and lower secondary schools, to fall below the minimum reading proficiency threshold, increasing the total number of students falling behind to 584 million in 2020. This wipes out the progress achieved in education over the past 20 years. Similar declines are observed in the area of mathematics. Nearly two-thirds of the children falling behind live in Central and Southern Africa and Eastern and Southern Asia. The proficiency rate was already very low in Sub-Saharan Africa before the pandemic. So learning losses in this region would likely occur among the children below minimum level of proficiency. Recovering of the learning deficit globally could occur by 2024, but only if extraordinary efforts are made. Only if extraordinary efforts are made. So in the world also, if you see, this number has come down from 54.5 to 45.3. Okay, so that is the like a change we are seeing over here. And in the next one, we have secondary school completion rate between 2010 to 19 percentage wise. Completion rate, secondary school. Sub-Saharan 26 to 29, improvement, slight improvement. Yeah, so overall, yes, this has improved. Then we have participation rate in organized learning 1 year before the official entry age for primary school, 2010 and 19%. Okay, organized learning 1 year before official entry age of primary school. Sub-Saharan 36 to 43. Okay, Oceania, we don't have this data. Okay, Australia, New Zealand, yes, here also. And then this has come down a little bit, this has improved. Overall world, yeah, 65 to 73. So we can see this participation rate in organized learning, this has improved in this 9-year span. The next one talks about proportion of youth and adults with basic ICT skills, latest year available in 2017 to 19. So yeah, gray is like no data available, and very light pinks 0 to 24.9 first quarter, and then second quarter, third quarter, fourth quarter 75 to 100. Okay, I hardly see anyone in the dark category. but yeah, these ones majorly here in this side, and these few here. Yeah, remaining mostly are in this category, and then the lighter ones. Yeah. In the next one, we have proportion of schools with basic infrastructure 2016 to 19, latest percentage wise, single sex sanitation, like toilets for both the genders, drinking water, electricity, hand washing, computers, internet. Okay, so percentage wise, if you see in the whole world, yeah, 40, and the least developed countries with this like a pink wala, this is 16 to 40, then 26 to 48. So of course world's average is higher. Okay, that means the advanced countries, they will be having even like a much higher percentage in all of these. Okay, so yeah, in the least developed countries this is like always behind. I think internet is the even the smallest one in this whole by just 16%. Okay, then we have 26% for computers, then we have electricity 33%, 40 for hand washing, 56. Yeah, well, I think a huge like a range to cover 60%. Okay, that's more than like a double, okay, than what is already there. So the proportion of like efforts needed is much higher in percentage wise, if you see. Okay, some more figures. COVID-19 has wiped out 20 years of education gains. An additional 101 million or 9% of children in age group 1 to 8 fell below. Yes, that we saw. Okay. Yeah. So let me move ahead. Yeah. So what are those targets inside this SDG 4 that we will see one by one. So we have 4.1. By 2030, ensure that all girls and boys complete free, equitable, quality primary and secondary education. Secondary means up to 10th, senior secondary is 12th, leading to relevant and goal for effective learning outcomes. Okay, 2030, ensure that all girls and boys have access to quality early childhood development, care and primary education so that they are ready for primary education. 2030, ensure equal access for all women and men to affordable and quality technical, vocational, tertiary education, including university. You see this. So primary begins from 0 to 5, then we have secondary up to 10th, and then we have senior secondary up to 12th. Okay, then it goes in the tertiary, like education, like you go for your degrees, undergraduation, post graduation, and you go for research, PhD, and postdocs, and all of those. So it keeps on moving, like up and up. So not just senior secondary, up to tertiary, so that like everybody goes for like some graduation, right? And they go to university, colleges, and they get their like degrees, right? Then even go for specialization, like a master's level, like a degrees, so that they can specialize. Like if like this undergraduate degrees are majorly to give you, like knowledge about like one particular field, for example arts, science, humanities, engineering, technology, medicine, management, etc. And then the master's degree is that where you specialize, you go into like one particular like a domain into that like a subject area, and you specialize into it, you gain a mastery over it. Okay, then you can put in your efforts in a much like a stronger way. That's why like a master's is. And then you enter into the research world where you go for like earning your PhD degree, where you become like an independent like a think tank and perform like academic and research activities all alone, right? So you develop those abilities, you develop like argumentations, research, investigation, right? And all of those abilities where you can like find a research opportunity. You can work on the main component, like using research methodologies. You can draw some inferences and results. You can generate some new knowledge, some novel knowledge, right? You can add to the overall domain of knowledge, like created by humans. That's the PhD stage. Okay, so it is desirable, at least at this stage, like one should go for like a I would definitely vouch for like a master's degree at least, so that you kind of like you command on your like a subject area, right? That I would definitely recommend. But yes, the SDGs actually talk about at least like a tertiary education, undergrad level, so that everybody is graduate. Next, substantially increase the number of youth and adults who have relevant skills, including technical vocational skills for employment, decent jobs, and entrepreneurship, because these you can employ immediately and get some like a work opportunity. Eliminate gender disparities in education and ensure equal access at all levels of education, vocational training for vulnerable those groups, including persons with disabilities. Yeah, another like a group which gets like affected, like these schools and like their premises, they are not even fit for regular like a normally abled like a kids. Then what to think of like a specially able kids, right? So that a discrepancy also must not exist, and our premises of schools and colleges must be friendly to the specially abled like a group of people, indigenous people and children in vulnerable situation. Yeah. But in 30, ensure that all youth and substantial proportion of adults, both men and women, achieve literacy and numeracy. So literacy, writing, reading, numeracy, so that they have number related capabilities. They can like a count, they can calculate like how much they have earned, like how much of like interest and how much of like taxes and such like a basic like a calculations, so that like nobody can like cheat them in like a regular life. Those kind of instances are also there. So numeracy, because like such like a majority of these people, if you see why this is essential, work in an unorganized like a sector, okay, and they earn whatever like money from the contractor or that vendor. Sometimes they get like cheated, right? So this should not happen to them. So even this attention is paid to that level, so that for everyday transactions in the market, like and all of those things, they can like take care of themselves. That's numeracy. Next, 30, ensure that all learners acquire knowledge and skills needed to promote sustainable development, SD, including models through education for sustainable development, sustainable lifestyle, human rights, gender equality, promotion of culture and peace, non-violence, global citizenship, appreciation of cultural diversity, and culture's contribution to SD. Build and upgrade education facilities that are child's disability and gender sensitive. Provide safe, non-violent, inclusive, effective learning environment for all. By 2020, I think that's a mistake or something, I don't know. Substantially expand globally the number of scholarships available to developing countries. Scholarships to developing countries, so that like people from these countries can go to like a developed countries for like gaining some like education skills and things. In particular, least developed countries, small island developing states and African countries for enrollment in higher education, including vocational training and information communication technology, teaching engineering and scientific programs in developed countries and other developing countries. Okay. By 2030, substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers. How this whole thing is going to happen is because of qualified and able teachers, isn't it? So we must actually like empower our people first of all to become teachers, like a good teachers. Then there will be more like a educated like a population. Then again there will be like again finer, nicer like a good teachers. Then again it will multiply, right? So we first need good qualified teachers who can empower like our generation, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially least developed countries, small islands. Yeah, so there are some like a guiding questions with respect to this. Like what are some practical ways to improve access to quality education and lifelong learning and deliver genuine impact both on people and sustainable development? Which one can be scaled up or replicated for success? Think about it. Which groups are the easiest, most difficult to reach? Because even if you are trying, there may be some practical, like a situation where you are not able to reach to, like a certain targeted group or group of people or maybe a community. They may be, like having, some unique kind of, like a maybe bottleneck, right? So what can be done to ensure that no one is left behind? So actually taking care that no one is left behind in access to quality education. We have established why this is crucial and essential, learning or teacher training. What actions can countries take to monitor the quality of education and ensure better learning outcomes? Monitor the quality education. How do you do that? How do you take care of this? Which are the most critical interlinkages between SDG 4 and other goals and targets across 2030 agenda? Maybe as an assignment, for yourself, you can plot this. You'll get to learn a lot of things. Maybe you can relate something, which is local to your place. How can co-benefits be promoted and trade-offs reduced? How do learning systems need to change to match a rapidly changing world with technological shifts, global integration and climate pressures? Yeah, so now come the real challenges. If you see technological shifts, a lot is changing in everyday life. Like every few months there are new electronic devices. There is some new computing abilities. Some new machine to do regular works and everyday works and things like that. Okay, where do you see your own fit in this fast changing world? Okay, only with the help of your own continued proper education and new skills you'll be able to cope up, right? So that technological shift, you also have to keep moving with that shift, right? Global integration, so that you're able to kind of respond from opportunities from anywhere, right? Then you can play a part at global level. And climate pressures. So climate pressures and impact we know. So there are a lot of risks posed by this a thing. Okay, how do you empower yourself, create your resilience to defend from this? So the agendas, so from here MGDs to EFS to SDG 4, so the scope was for primary education, children based. In this one, education for all. Under this, basic education, children, youth and adults. And SDG 4 suggests basic education plus post basic education with lifelong perspective. Why this is important, let me go back again to this previous slide, is because of this. Technological shifts, global integration and climate pressures. If you are not empowered and if you are not changing yourself every day, how are you going to cope up with this? That's why SDG 4 is very important. It doesn't only talks about primary education or basic education, lifelong education. Coverage, low income countries, conflict affected regions. Well, this in EFA it was universal in intention, focus on lower income countries, but here it's a a universal agenda for global north and south also, because generally global south is a lagging one, right? So yeah, process led by UN and UN and member states here in this case. Policy focus, access to and completion of primary education for all, access to quality and basic education for all, access to quality based learning for all, equitable access to post basic education, relevance of learning and work for citizenship and all of these things. So if you see, the scope has really widened. Number of targets inside, we saw in MDGs, like MDG 2 it was only 2, here there was 6 goals, now we have 10 like we saw initially here. Yeah, these ones. Okay, so ensure inclusive and equitable quality education and promote lifelong learning opportunity for all. That's the one line basic premise of SDG 4, right? So that there is no one left behind. Universal relevance for both right based and public common good, inclusion, equity, gender equality, address all forms of discrimination and situations including emergencies, right to education, right to education. Yeah, so blurring boundaries, challenging SDG 4, blurring of boundaries between formal and informal learning, recontextualizing right to education, changing the role of teachers. So teachers, can play a vital role. They are not just, there to give you like ABCD or 1, 2, 3, 4. A lot of things, like they can teach. They can teach you like a value education. They can teach you like vocational, things by like themselves, training them in right places, and then they can help you with like life lessons, life skills. Like life also is an kind of like a thing, a challenge for everyone. Everybody faces it like very uniquely, and they come up with like their own like a unique ups and downs. Okay, how to cope up, how to keep on moving with this changing times, in the whether at professional level, personal level, social level, at any level. Okay, so all of those things, if you see, teachers can play like a vital role to empower. Further, blurring of boundaries between public and the private, growing private engagement in education, changing role of the state. So not just like a government dependent, like all other like agencies and like a uh, yeah, bodies can come to like help it. Recontextualizing education as a public good. Now we have already established why is it good for like everyone to like the overall socio-economic like a condition of like a country, and this has the capacity to lift it. Further, blurring of boundaries between global and local. Yeah, now I think it's so we have moved on from the like a silo based like a public administration center, or like a countries wala system, right? So one country is here, one country is there, and there is no relationship, no dialogue. I think gone are the days, right? So there is so much now. This whole world is reduced to a global village. You may have heard like like this like a term, right? So world is reduced to a global village, and how do you establish yourself in this like a global village? Citizenship and education in a plural integrated world, local knowledge, languages and globalization, growing focus on 21st century, transversal skills, global versus national local monitoring. So both ways. Yeah, so from national to regional to global, how does it work? You can see here, government headed by national SDG coordinators, building on existing structures, system-wide approach, integration, national plans. Like you may be aware of, like a new education plan NEP has come, right? And there are a lot of like a new changes which we are going to experience, through this like a new education policy, right? So this policy actually is quite diverse in its scope, and it's going to take care of like like education in a much like a healthier way. And this has adopted a lot of like inputs from what is happening at the global level, for imparting education at all levels, and how to kind of like delegate even like certificate like a courses, or like a diploma courses, postgraduate diploma courses out of full degree programs and things like that, the way like IGNOU also used to work earlier. IGNOU is practicing for a long time now, so those kind of things in every like a college. All the graduations are I think going to be of a minimum 4 years like a duration, right? So there are a lot of like reforms even at primary level. The number I think the years at which a child can enter is also kind of changed from earlier to now. So yeah, a lot of things which are going to change, and we are all going to witness it. Okay, we are all going to experience this, right? So yeah, at regional level also, like ASEAN, SAARC and all of these things, I think our own neighbor countries, we have like India has several like a fellowship programs running for students from our neighboring countries. They can come and like avail education facilities in our institutes in India. And yes, of course, at global level, yeah, so education targets, if you see in other like SDGs. So well, of course, the SDG 4 is like talking about like education, quality education, but other places also, other SDGs also, education has found like some place, some relevance, like how it can contribute to those SDGs, right? So for poverty alleviation, if you see, education is the easiest way, and I think is the much stronger way one can relieve themselves out of like that misery, that situation. Okay, so in this one it is mentioned like a global indicator under no poverty, proportion of total government spending on essential services such as education, health and social protection. Okay, so because more investment here, more improvement here, directly related. Health and well-being, target 3.7 actually talks about by 2030 ensure universal access to sexual reproduction healthcare services including the family planning, information in education, and integration of reproductive health into national strategies and programs. Then we have, for the fifth one, gender equality, number of countries and laws, regulations that guarantee women aged between 15 to 49 years access to sexual and reproductive health care, information and education, so that like they know about their own body and its functioning, how to take care of their health, how to maintain a good hygiene, right? How to make use of like other health like products and things like that. Okay, and all of those things. Then in the eighth one, decent work and economic growth, target 8.6 by 2020 substantially reduce the proportion of youth not in employment, education or training. So, well, this time has already passed, like a strong force, so that like people from this category can be given like a help. Then in 12th, responsible consumption and production, unless and until you know okay, what kind of like impacts you are creating, your own carbon footprint or energy footprint or pollution footprint, how can you contribute? Okay, so empowering and enabling everybody to know their own like a things is also essential for fighting like a climate change. So that thing, information and awareness. In the climate action, improve education awareness raising about this phenomena, and peace justice, of course. This cannot be done without involving everyone and everyone's knowledge, right? So of course, by obvious, this is essential for the 16th one, right? So now you see like interrelationship between education and other SDGs. Then we have a few more. Monitoring of SDG 4 levels of monitoring education targets. So you can see like this sketch, this is from UNESCO. National level monitoring linked to needs of national sub-governments, adapting to the specifics of a national context. A regional level, the set of indicators may be developed to take account of priorities and issues of common interest shared by countries. For example, we can have our own policy among like a SAARC countries and so on. Global level monitoring relies on more limited and carefully selected group of leading indicators. Harmonization of monitoring and reporting of SDGs. Thematic monitoring, level of monitoring of comparable indicators within a specific sector, education, environment, energy, health, etc. serve as a framework to track progress on cross-nationally comparable basis, etc. Now, SDG 4 consists of 7 plus 3 targets, length 43 indicators. There are 4 monitoring levels that we have seen. Yeah, the 11 global indicators are led by IAG, SDGs, and this methodology development implementation 43 thematic indicators. You can see it how like each one are connected. So for national you can see here, for global you can see here, regional and thematic. Yeah, another relation, impact of business schools on the sustainable development goals. So direct impact on these 4. Innovation fosters clean water, affordable and clean energy, life below water, life on land. And direct impact, if you see, for education is on your work. Depending upon your qualification and skills what you have, you are going to seek like a working opportunities, directly connected, right? There is no doubt, there is no confusion, right? So direct impact, and that will lead to the economic growth. Industry, innovation, infrastructure, where your skills would be, responsible consumption and partnerships. And these, so directly impacting in these ones, then innovation based approaches you can adopt and improve on these ones. And that will ultimately lead to improvement in SDG 1. If you come from a humble background, right, it's going to help, bringing you above, that level, handle zero hunger, able to maintain our own bodily health and be aware of in the, like health one we saw, like if women are, if girls, students are, aware of, these things, they can handle, like their, like a hygiene related things, much, like in, knowledgeable way and so on. This is true for every, age group, every, like gender. Then of course, gender equality, improvement or reduce inequalities, like a color based, language based, region based, those kind of, like discriminations, also can be addressed through this. Sustainable cities and like a communities, like for this one I have one example, like if you see KVs and like a Jawahar Navodaya Vidyalaya, JNVs, like they are working at like a national level, and they have this migration, like JNVs have this migration, like a feature where students from one region of India go to study for some time, for few years, to the another like region of India. And similarly, students from this region actually come to the like this region. So there is this migration for like a temporary migration of few years, 1-2 years, okay, where they like learn their like a local languages, they learn like about like a cultures and things, they mingle. And over like this sustained like several decades of its existence, now JNVs have like produced lakhs and lakhs of like students who are like contributing to the national integration, and knowing cultures about like and knowing like things from different places. So now we are more empowered. Now those like students are they know about how the our own country actually is, right, at different parts, right, in different like places. And this is all ours also, the sense of like a belongingness and like a personal connection, right? Then only one can feel like this national like a pride and things. So definitely in multiple ways like there is like a contribution of education. Sustainable cities and communities, unless and until you know your own like this thing, how much of pollution you are creating, definitely you can empower yourself and help yourself. Climate action and this thing, yeah. So yeah, with this I have come to the last slide. Here we can see like what UN environment is giving very simple 3 challenges for quality education and 3 solutions. Well, what are those? 133 million youth worldwide lack basic literacy skills. More than 60% of that are women. Like we saw, like 2/3 of like that age group, like a schooling wala, is the like a girl, like a children. Lack of access to basic services such as water, electricity prevent children, especially girls, from going to school. We saw, these are the practical reasons. Natural disasters such as floods, droughts also can like lead to like a dropping off from the school, like collapse of infrastructure, or maybe like a falling in the poverty wala zone, and like a things like that. Well, solutions: promote education for everyone, and make it free for everyone, so that like a no economic or like a such like a things come in the way of education. Like every school must be like a given like a basic facilities of water and sanitation, like a health wala like a things, okay, and should be like a free. Then improve access to basic services for children's time, so that they can go to school, okay. So their freedom actually should be given back to them, so that they can like have fun, they can play, this helps them growing like a mentally and like a physical ability wise, right? So that is also essential. Then finally building like a resilience capacity to ensure children can go to school at all times, irrespective of like those challenges, even during extreme climate events, right? So infrastructure, a robust infrastructure, right? So that is essential for ensuring like this last point. So yeah, with this hope now that you are aware of like how SDG 4 is envisioned and what needs to be done, so you can have an access, like an assessment of like what is going on in your own locality, vicinity, in your own surrounding, in your own place, town, city, village, wherever, and you should look for in what ways like that situation can be improved. Identify which are those vulnerable group and see if you can help them, right? So with this we have come to the end of this module. Thank you all. See you all in the next time.